All right, welcome to my policy presentation. This is on the concussion policies of a certain school. I decided to do Texas Christian University, otherwise known as TCU. My name is Clay Rushton. I hope that you guys enjoy this presentation and hopefully learn something from it. So you might be asking a question, why did he pick TCU? Well, the answer is pretty simple. I've been a huge TCU fan ever since I was in 5th grade. I follow their football, basketball, baseball, all of it. I'm in love with the school. I don't know what it is or what it is about them, but ever since I was a little kid, this has been my favorite college football team, my favorite college basketball team. And so the choice was pretty easy here. I knew who I was going to pick. I'm doing the presentation in front of a giant TCU flag. I'm wearing a TCU shirt. So it just made sense for me to pick the school and do my presentation on this school. I'm going to start my presentation off by reviewing TCU's concussion policies, and I need to start off with asking the question who I was going to ask these questions to get the answers. And I decided to go to TCU Athletics and TCU, the school itself, for these answers. I used resources such as, the athletics website, the school website, news reports, interviews, articles, and then the actual forms that the teams get sent out by the school. So I was able to get a pretty good amount of information on their policy and things that I needed. The policy was created by a group put together by the Big 12 Conference in which they plan. The school themselves also came up with a policy. So a couple different policies all roped into one. Who can diagnose a concussion? Concussions can be diagnosed by appropriate medical staff, certified athletic trainers, team physicians, or healthcare professionals with experience in concussion evaluation. So this to make sure that the person who's diagnosing the concussions is definitely someone who's certified in doing so. And then how are concussions deemed? They are deemed using a SCAT-5, which is a standardized concussion assessment, along with a physical assessment, neurological exams, and then if there are any other tests that are deemed necessary, they will also go ahead and do those. That would be if someone had, a history of multiple concussions. The amount of tests that they're going to run and precautionary measures is going to be a lot greater. So I thought that this was something that was pretty thorough, and it was a good start when I got into reviewing, their team's concussion policies. So I was very pleased with what I found. Obviously, this moves into the next slide, which is the protocol for post-diagnosis. This would be as if I had gotten a concussion as an athlete at TCU. How would the school react, and what would they provide me? After being diagnosed with a concussion, they would give me a handout with a list of several symptoms such as headaches, loss of appetite, dizziness, inability to focus, among many, many other symptoms. This just allows the student athletes to get a list of, what they could possibly be going through with this concussion over the next several days, weeks, or even months. The other thing that they're going to provide is an okay to do and a not okay to do side-by-side comparison list. This just gives the student athlete, a list of common things that are asked when they get a concussion, like, can I do this? Can I not do this? This is like a baseline of certain things that they can and can't do. For an example, on the okay to do list, it lists things like the use of medicine given by the medicine staff, the use of ice, resting in dim rooms, among other things. And then on the not okay to do list, it includes things like drinking alcohol, driving a car, staying up late, watching TV, and playing video games. This just covers the school for things that, they should and should not be doing. And then to wrap it all up, they have a next day appointment with the student athlete the day after they're diagnosed to come back in for a reevaluation, more of a thorough breakdown of what they need to do to get back on the field in the classroom. And that is a perfect segue into my next slide, which is going to be on return to play. And returning to play is a big thing because what do student athletes want to do? They want to play. They want to get back. One thing that stood out to me about their policies is that any athlete that's brought in for an evaluation of a concussion during a game, no matter what, is not allowed to return that same day. Whether the diagnosis is given or not, they will not be allowed to return to play, which I thought was very safe and a smart thing to do on the behalf of the school. I thought it was a great idea to have that. For return to play, TCU guidelines require athletes first complete evaluations by doing daily tasks that don't provoke symptoms. And once they're able to get clear to that, they're then able to go into light aerobic exercises such as walking. Once they're able to walk and they're evaluated in walking and doing stuff like that, they will be cleared to then do sport-related exercises. That would be like, for example, if you played hockey, coming back and being able to skate on your own. Once you're able to do that, they'll clear you to go to non-contact training drills for your specific sport. Like if you're a quarterback, maybe throwing and things of that nature. And then finally, you'd be able to go to a full practice where you'd be watched by the medical staff and then evaluated. And hopefully, at the end of that, you'd be able to return full time to your sport. So obviously, being evaluated on every single level, whether it's the light aerobics, the non-contact sports, the full practice, there's a step-by-step evaluation and being cleared before you can come back full to your sport and playing games or compete at a high level. This is going to ensure that these student athletes are coming back healthy and at a lower risk of having a second or another concussion down the road. Might not be their second, but having another one after the one they were just diagnosed for. And then this gets me to my next slide, which is going to be talking about the return to learn. Returning to learn is obviously such a big part of this. And I actually thought that TCU's policy on return to learn was very good. It starts out with a physical rest determined by a cognitive test by the physician. This cognitive test will also be determined in the learning aspect. So how long do they need to rest before they're allowed to start thinking about learning or thinking about getting back on the field, which I thought was very good. After they're evaluated multiple times, they're given different options on returning to learn. So I thought this was something that was very smart of the school to provide, because every concussion, every person is different, the severity of it. So they allow different options such as partial return to school, full return, and then a full return with special requirements such as 15-minute breaks, stuff of that nature, to make sure that the student comes back to the learning environment in a good headspace, in a proper way, in a healthy way, to make sure they're not coming back too fast. I thought the different options was a very good thing. And then even when they're back full or partial, there's a progress evaluation that's done by the medical staff. So they're meeting with them, they're meeting with their team advisor, which I'll get into next, but they're constantly being reevaluated and making sure that the workload that they're coming back to is not too much and going to be strenuous. And obviously, this brings me to my last point in notifying teachers, which I just kind of touched on, which was the academic advisor. Each team and each sport has a designated academic advisor who acts as a point person for returning to learn. As the point person, they contact the teachers about what athletes have concussions, and then throughout their process and their recovery, they're giving updates to the teacher on, here they are in this aspect of returning to learn. Here they are in this aspect of returning to play. just giving the teachers and notifying them on what the deal is, what's going on, which I thought was extremely smart, to give them all their own academic advisor, so there's not one person being overwhelmed by all these sports. So each sport having their own person, I thought, was a great idea, and a great way for teachers not to have such a tough time getting and knowing that a student has a concussion. And that will be it. I wanted to thank you guys for watching my presentation on TCU's concussion policies, and I really hope that you guys learned something from this. Thank you for listening.